If you're going to Yellowstone with kids, this is the video for you. Hi friends, welcome back to Moms Make It Magical. I'm Susan and I usually share tips on theme parks with highly sensitive and neurodivergent kids, but in this video I'm going to talk about Yellowstone and all the spots we visited with our 3 kids. I'll share things like stroller friendliness, crowds, smells, closest entrances, and what we loved. Be sure to stick around until the end of the video as I'll share 2 bonus kid-friendly things to do near Yellowstone but that are not in the park. If you're new here, please subscribe so you don't miss any new family travel tips and suggestions. Before we jump in, let me give you some general context about our Yellowstone trip. We didn't do the full lower loop. If you're unfamiliar with Yellowstone, the main roads in the park kind of form a figure 8 like you see here. The northern part is referred to as the upper loop and the southern part is the lower loop. While we did do parts of the lower loop, we didn't get to all of it. We ran out of time. So some of those spots will not be on this list simply because we couldn't fit it into our schedule. I also have to plug the best investment that we made for our Yellowstone trip, which was downloading the GuideAlong app and purchasing the audio tour for Yellowstone. And this is not sponsored. We paid for this with our own money. It really felt like we had a personal guide in the car. It helped the kids, especially our older 2 kids, stay really engaged and made the drives really fun. This was suggested to me by my brother and sister-in-law when they went to Yellowstone and they really enjoyed it. And so we did the same thing, and I feel like it just really made the experience so much better. They also have audio tours for many places across the US and Canada. We also actually bought another tour when we were in the Vancouver area and for the drive up to Whistler, and we love that as well. So I highly recommend doing this. You won't regret it. And don't worry, I'll leave information about the GuideAlong app in the description below. So now let's get into the 12 different spots that we visited at Yellowstone National Park with our 3 kids. Number 1 is the Fountain Paint Pot Trail. This is a boardwalk trail and we actually found it to be really stroller friendly. It was easy to push a stroller on. There were a couple spots with a little bit of steps that we had to navigate, but we were able to just carry the stroller down. There is a ton of bubbling mud pots, hot springs, steam vents in this area. So be prepared for a bit of a sulfur smell. That's to be expected when you're around these geysers and all this volcanic activity. So that's something to be mindful of if you do have children who are sensitive to strong smells. I would suggest going here early if possible. We were here first thing in the morning and we really didn't encounter any crowds at all, but it can get crowded during busier seasons and that's just something to note. The closest entrance to Fountain Paint Pot Trail is the west entrance and it is part of the lower loop. Number 2 is Old Faithful. Who can go to Yellowstone and not visit Old Faithful, right? This is the iconic geyser that Yellowstone is known for. Old Faithful erupts on average about 20 times a day, so about every 60 to 90 minutes. But be sure to check the Old Faithful Visitor Center for specific times on the day that you're there. We also took time to explore the visitor center itself. I found it great for kids. There were a ton of interactive exhibits. It was also a good spot for a bathroom break, and it's also a great option if you need to get inside from the elements for whatever reason. If it's a hot day and you need to get in for some air conditioning, or if it's a little bit chilly and you want to warm up a little, the visitor center is a great way to do so. And what you see pictured here is the viewing areas where you can actually watch Old Faithful erupt. There are benches set up for people to sit and take it all in. As expected, it is very crowded. It is probably one of the busiest spots in the park because it is so famous. It was even difficult to find parking, even though the parking lots are pretty big. So just be prepared for some crowded areas when you are here to see Old Faithful.
Hi, Eddie. Yeah. It's great work.
There were also some boardwalk trails nearby that we checked out, and we found most of the areas that we went to pretty stroller friendly and accessible here. Located next to the Old Faithful Visitor Center is the Old Faithful Inn, and this was really cool to see. It is a very historic building and is an option for lodging if you're hoping to stay inside the national park, but we also found it to be pretty busy. The closest entrance to the Old Faithful area is the west entrance, and it is part of the lower loop. Number 3 is Roosevelt Corral, and this is located near the Tower Roosevelt Junction. It's open seasonally, usually June to September, and we pre-booked a trail ride on horseback for my daughter and my husband. My daughter loved this. She's a huge horseback riding fan, and they got to see and experience the landscape from a different perspective. Younger kids may not be eligible. At the time of us booking, you had to be at least 8 years old, at least 48 inches tall, and weigh less than 240 pounds. The price for us in 2024 started at $97 per person for a 1-hour ride. Be mindful of some barnyard type smells, which are expected when you're around horses. This location also offers an Old West dinner cookout, which is a popular cookout experience that includes a wagon ride to a cookout site with food, music, and storytelling. We considered doing this as well, but didn't want to overcommit ourselves. The closest entrance to the Roosevelt Corral is the north/northeast entrance, and it is part of the upper loop. While they were doing that, I took the boys to a nearby overlook to enjoy the views instead of just waiting around at the corral. Number 4 is Undine Falls. This is a 60-foot, 3-tiered waterfall. And yes, we did have a lot of jokes about Undies Falls with the kids. But anyway, this is a pretty quick stop. The overlook is right off the road. I would say it's not very stroller friendly because there are quite a few steps down to the overlook, but because it's still really close to the parking lot, there's really not much of a need for a stroller. There is supposed to be an easy trail from the Lava Creek trailhead to get close to the Undine Falls, but we did not get a chance to do that. We did not find this very crowded at all, and the parking lot was pretty large. The closest entrance here is the north entrance, and it is part of the upper loop. Number 5, we have Lamar Valley, and this could be considered the Serengeti of North America. It is known for wildlife galore. It's impossible to come here and not see any animals. It was mostly roadside pullouts, and I actually found it great for kids to run around a little, mostly because it was flat landscape, not super hilly or with cliffs, and it didn't feel dangerous at all as long as you weren't next to wildlife. But definitely bring your binoculars so that you can get a good look at any animals you come across. We didn't find this area to be super busy or crowded. Everyone was mostly spread out, but if there were a group of cars all stopped in one area, you knew that there was something interesting to see, so that was always worthwhile. There are no obvious restrooms, so that's something to be mindful of. Make sure you take your potty breaks before you drive out to Lamar Valley. The closest entrance to Lamar Valley is the northeast entrance, and it branches off the upper loop. Number 6, we have Tower Fall, which is a 132-foot waterfall. There's a short paved walk to the overlook, and it was pretty stroller friendly, but there is also an option for a more challenging hike on a dirt path if older kids want to try. The parking lot does fill up pretty fast here. I feel like the parking lot is pretty small relative to this area. There is also a general store and restrooms to use, and the closest entrance is the north entrance. Number 7 is Mount Washburn, and this is a prominent mountain peak in Yellowstone with an elevation of 10,219 feet. There is a shorter hike, which is still 2.25 miles long from the Chittenden Road parking area, and this is where we parked, where you see right here. But it is still a pretty challenging hike. It might be better off to skip this if you have really little kids. We walked up probably not even half a mile and came back down. But it was worthwhile because even just the view from the parking lot was gorgeous. This is definitely not stroller friendly. I would recommend wearing your baby or toddler if need be. And this is definitely best for older kids who are able to handle a bit of a hike. The closest entrance is the north entrance, and it's part of the upper loop. Number 8, we have the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. This is a 20-mile long canyon formed by the Yellowstone River, and there are multiple viewpoints. Some of the viewpoints include the Artist Point, Inspiration Point, Lookout Point. They were all stunning. It was generally stroller friendly, although there were spots with stairs, as you see right here. And one thing to note is that if you are planning to do multiple viewpoints, it is a lot of parking and getting out of the car, walking a little bit, getting back in the car, driving a little bit again, parking, etc., over and over again. And after a few stops, we actually took turns getting out of the car because it wasn't always worthwhile for the whole family to get out for a few minutes, especially the toddler. So if you do have a little one who struggles with transitions, take note that this area, while beautiful, can be a little challenging. We found this area to be pretty crowded, especially midday, but I would still say it is 100% worth it. It was probably some of the most picturesque areas in Yellowstone. And here you'll see an example of some of the crowds I was talking about at one of the stops. But still worth it, right? Look how pretty it is. I also want to say that the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone was generally difficult to feel comfortable letting my youngest one loose because, there were a lot of cliffs and high places, lots of rocks, and so it didn't really feel safe to let him wander much, and that was a little bit challenging for him. I'm gonna get Mohawk Warrior. Number 9, the Canyon Village Visitor Center. This is located not far from some of the viewpoints of the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. There are a ton of exhibits about Yellowstone's volcanic activity and the geology in this area, and it was pretty kid-friendly, a lot of interactive spots. I always like weaving in education and learning opportunities when we travel. We homeschool as well. So the visitor centers located around the park were great stops. There are also bathrooms, food, and gift shops. The closest entrance is the north and kind of the west entrance, and it's right along the upper and lower loop. Number 10, Grand Prismatic Overlook. There's actually a boardwalk trail that gets you closer to the Grand Prismatic, but we wanted the view from further away. Parking is by the Fairy Falls trailhead, like you see right here, and it's about a 20-minute hike for a bird's eye view of the Grand Prismatic. Some of this is uphill, so I would say it's not very stroller friendly, especially the uphill portion, but it's definitely manageable for older kids. I wore my youngest because that was just the easier way to go. It can be crowded, but everyone keeps moving, so it doesn't stay very crowded like you would find at Old Faithful or other parts of the park. The closest entrance here is the west entrance, and it is part of the lower loop.
I knew this was
Number 11, Norris Geyser Basin. This is the hottest, oldest, and most dynamic of Yellowstone's thermal areas, and it's part of one of the world's largest active volcanoes. I found that the parking lot here filled up really quickly. There is an overflow area, but that is a further hike away. So if possible, I would come here as early as you can during the day so that you can snag a parking spot that's closer to the trails. There are a large variety of trails here, and we didn't get to do them all. Some parts were more stroller friendly than others. There were definitely some areas where there was a steep incline and we had to fold up our stroller for some steps, but there were other sections where it was consisted of boardwalks and it was easy to push a stroller, so it's kind of a mixed bag here. Be prepared for some strong sulfur smells here, as it is a very hot area, but it is totally worth the otherworldly landscape that you see here. It was nothing like I've ever seen anywhere else in the world. I will note that I was a little bit worried about the safety of my kids in this area, especially my youngest, because everything is so hot and you don't want them touching anything or going off the boardwalk. So that's just something to keep in mind if you have a really active toddler or preschooler. Norris Geyser Basin is also known for having Steamboat Geyser, which is the world's tallest active geyser and capable of eruptions of over 300 feet high. We just never know when it's going to happen. The closest entrance is the west entrance, and it is located right along the upper and lower loop. Number 12, the last spot on our list, is Mammoth Hot Springs. This is gorgeous mineral terraces, and some of the areas were stroller friendly, but we also found that there were stairs as well. For us, we mostly took it as a drive-through area with some stops to take photos. There are trails, but our kids were too tired for trails by this point, so we opted to do the drive-through. We found it less crowded than the Old Faithful section of the park. The closest entrance here is the north entrance. It's very close to there, and that is where you can also find the iconic Roosevelt Arch, and this is part of the upper loop. Now it's time for the 2 bonus kid-friendly things that you can do that are near Yellowstone but outside of the national park. Number 1 is the Grizzly and Wolf Discovery Center, located in West Yellowstone. This is a really fun and educational place where you can get a close-up look at bears, wolves, and birds of prey. There's also a playground in here, and it's really great for kids who maybe didn't get to spot animals in the park or want to learn more about the animals that you might see inside Yellowstone. second place is the Museum of the Rockies located in Bozeman, Montana. There's a huge dinosaur fossil collection here, and there's also a children's area that is themed after Yellowstone. It's a great preview before going to Yellowstone itself. It's a lot of fun for kids and one of the highlights of our trip. There you have it, the 12 Yellowstone spots that we visited with our kids. Hope this helps if you're planning a family trip. If this was helpful, please like and subscribe for more videos on realistic family travel and outings. Let me know in the comments what's your number one spot that you'd want to visit with your kids. Thanks for watching again, and let's keep making magical memories with our families.